So employment generation, and you will be able to relate very well. And in any institution, if we are trying to deliver a program to the students, if we are not able to place them, students do not come back to us. So similarly, any product from the design point of view, when launched in the market, if it is not giving employment to the people, it's not worth it. It, you know, dies its own death after a little while. I must also share with you, it is amongst the finest of the fabrics, and all of you on the other side will agree that the, you know, the yarn count that we are able to find in Khadi, we cannot even help that get in the mill-made fabric, in the mill-made yarn. And I understand today, on the other side, that Khadi is just the right fabric for any type of clothing, because it gives us comfort, it takes care of our health. You feel wonderful once you touch this fabric. The performance is really good with the type of softeners and also the shrinkage treatments and the color bleeding performances which are coming in the market. Because of that, the performance of the material is also increasing, and it's becoming a very easy care fabric nowadays. As the name says, and as we started that it's an eco-friendly fabric, we're trying to use all chemically safe dyes. We're not trying to, develop a design with the chemical dyes. You get all different type of soft materials also today. I will give you a visual delight in a little while. We all understand that we can have cotton khadi, poly khadi, wool khadi, khadi muslin, and khadi silk. And now a journey that how did this fabric of revolutionary got converted into a fabric of designers. We all know it is never, जब तक independence नहीं आई, जब तक we were not fighting for our independence, तो हम कपड़े नहीं पहनते थे. There were a lot of materials that we were wearing, but the market was flooded with the mill-made fabrics, है ना. हर तरफ powerloom था, and it is only because उस powerloom materials की qualities इतनी ज़्यादा थी और जिस तरीके से variety हमारे को कपड़े में मिलने लग गई थी, तो हैंडलूम खत्म होने लग गया और पावरलूम एक अनडिस्प्यूटेड विनर एक मार्केट में हमारे सामने आने लगा. और आज भी हम ये रियलाइज करते हैं कि जब हम हैंडलूम मटेरियल सोर्स करके कोई कलेक्शन को डेवलप करने लगते हैं, पहले हमें वेंडर्स नहीं मिलते, हमें वीवर्स नहीं मिलते, और जब वीवर्स और वेंडर्स हमें मिलते हैं, वी हैव अ वेरी वेरी लिमिटेड सप्लाई ऑफ द मटेरियल. और जब लिमिटेड सप्लाई ऑफ द मटेरियल होती है, एट द सेम टाइम वी डू नॉट गेट वेराइटी. फॉर एग्जांपल, अगर मुझे एक स्पेसिफिक कलर में कपड़े को वीव कराना है, ताना बाना मेरा अलग है, warp and weft are separate, they are yarn dyed fabric, and warp and weft are separate. I have a limitation of the amount of the fabric which could be produced for my collection to be developed. So these are the things that have always been reigning, and we as designers have to face limitations while working on products like this. But you people know that during the time when India was being ruled by the Britishers, and when we as Indians started fighting for our freedom, this was the time then when we actually realized that Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, who is popularly known as Bapuji, he was the first one who believed that Swadeshi was the first step towards independence. And trust me, today also I believe that if India has to reign the world, it is ultimately Swadeshi, the Make in India thought, that can only make us successful. So in the process of doing that, he in 1909 wrote in Hind Swaraj that we can gain our freedom only with charkha. The statement may sound very hypothetical to us, and at that point of time, people, because they were following Gandhiji, they believed in this statement. But when I've been speaking at different platforms, people many a time laugh also. Ma'am, kya charkha, charkhe se kaise bhi hoti hai? Ye to sirf कहने का नाम था. But let me tell you, जब उन्होंने ये सोचा कि चरखे से हमारे को इंडिपेंडेंस मिलती है, शायद उनका थॉट इतना क्लियर नहीं था. इसीलिए उन्होंने 1915 में एक खोचर आश्रम एस्टैब्लिश किया. बट क्या सिर्फ आश्रम एस्टैब्लिश करके खादी आ गई हिंदुस्तान में? नहीं, ऐसा नहीं हो पाया. खोचर आश्रम तो एस्टैब्लिश हुआ, लेकिन वहां पे हैंडलूम तो उन्होंने लगा लिए, लेकिन उन खड्डियों पे धागा आज भी मिल का लगाया जाता था, बिकॉज इंडिया वॉज बीइंग रूल्ड बाय ब्रिटिशर्स. और हम उस एरा में थे जब हम हाथ के काम को भूल चुके थे और हर तरफ हम मिल के कपड़े को ही पहन रहे थे, मिल के धागे का ही इस्तेमाल कर रहे थे. तो रातों रात वापस अपनी रूट्स पे आना बहुत मुश्किल था. तब उन्होंने रियलाइज किया कि मिल के धागे से अगर मैंने कपड़ा बनाया तो स्वदेशी तो कभी हो नहीं पाएगा. कि अब अल्टीमेटली रिक्वायरमेंट थी एक चरखा तलाशने की, एक स्पिनिंग व्हील तलाशने की, ताकि हम अपने काम को कर पाए। एंड यूल बी सरप्राइज्ड, हम सब ये तो जरूर जानते हैं कि नॉन वायलेंस शुरू हुई और चरखे के ऊपर काम शुरू हुआ, पर हमारे में से बहुत कम ऐसे हैं जो ये रिलेट करते हैं कि 1915 में हिंदुस्तान में चरखा मिलना ही मुश्किल था। Can you actually believe this? So while I was working on this research of mine, I was also surprised myself that 1915 was one time that when Gandhiji found it very, very difficult even to locate one spinning wheel in the country. And it was at this time that his activist friend Ganga Ben, she was able to search one family who would do hand spinning in Bijapur. जैसे हमारे में से we are textile people and we understand कि पाटन में आज भी एक फैमिली है जो पटोला साड़ीज बनाती है, जो ओरिजिनल पटोला साड़ीज है। उसी तरीके से 1915 में गंगा बहन ने बीजापुर में एक फैमिली ढूंढी जो चरखे पे काम करती थी, जिनके घर में चरखा लगा हुआ था। And it was actually the time when that thought, that notion, that name came in. Fabric could once again be woven using hand spun yarn, and Gandhiji named this fabric as Khadi. So it was actually this journey which was never discovered, which was never found, and which was the toughest. There were handlooms, there were mill-made yarns, but rebirth of charkha was important, and it was here that Gandhiji named this fabric as Khadi. And in 1919, Gandhiji called for Khadi fast. ये भी हम सब जानते हैं। हम जानते हैं कि दांडी मार्च हुई थी all over the country and related Khadi directly with the freedom. It was then that all were sure that abolishing the foreign fabric and producing Khadi was the only way to get freedom. But it wasn't an easy journey. It was just not an easy journey. You will realize it now. Hand spinning तो शुरू हो गई, but spinning wheels बहुत कम थे। अभी मैंने आपको बताया कि बीजापुर में पहली फैमिली मिली थी जो कि ये काम कर रही थी, but there were very few spinning wheels in काठियावाड़। और सिस्टमैटिक यूसेज एंड प्रोडक्शन के लिए खादी की ये इम्पोर्टेंट था कि एक सेंटर खोला जाए और वहां बहुत सारे चरखे लगाए जाएं, क्योंकि अगर आपके पास स्पन यार्न नहीं होगा तो आप अल्टीमेटली अपने फैब्रिक को डेवलप कैसे करेंगे। बट दिस फॉर्म ऑफ खादी जो कि इनिशियली मिली या जो डेवलप की गई was much different from what is available today. I would request there is somebody who's talking, if you can please mute yourself. Yeah. The form of khadi which was available earlier was much different from what is available today. है ना, आज हम मार्केट जाते हैं, we go to the khadi stores, we get the beautiful silk fabric, we get the best of the malmals. You know, जिस ढाका मसलिन के साथ हम रिलेट करते थे, आज उतनी खूबसूरत खादी वापस दुकानों से मिलती है। लेकिन जब रीबर्थ हुआ था इस मटेरियल का, उस समय 4 काउंट का धागा इस्तेमाल होता था और सिर्फ 24 इंच का कपड़ा बनता था। आई रिपीट, 4 काउंट ऑफ yarn. You people on the other side, you know, would relate it very, very well to 4 काउंट कैसा कोर्सर बेस होता है, and used to weave only 24 inches wide fabric. This form of khadi at that particular time was called beja. है ना, आज हम इतने कोर्सर, हम तो कहते हैं जूट वेरिएशंस ले लो, दरिया बना लो, कमल बना लो, उस तरह के मटेरियल्स का हम इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं। उस समय बेजा इसे कहा गया काठियावाड़ में। लेकिन खादी की प्रोडक्शन हो रही थी, थोड़ी सक्सेस मिल रही थी, इसलिए घर घर तक खादी कैसे पहुंचती, that is where the marketing aspect in khadi started. It was decided to open the first khadi bandar in India. I tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it wasn't an easy journey. आज जो आपको खादी भंडार हमारे सारे हिंदुस्तान में दिखते हैं, इनकी बर्थ उस समय हुई थी, and it was decided to open the first khadi bandar in India for marketing the produced khadi, and the shop was finalized at a rent of 15 per month in Mumbai. I could not believe my ears when I met this old gentleman, very, very senior worker in to the part of the Indian freedom also. When he told me, I could not believe my ears, and he said कि पूनम उस समय 15 रुपए बहुत ज्यादा होते थे और 15 रुपए में दुकान किराए पे लेना एक बहुत बड़ी बात थी, and the khadi was priced at 4 आना a yard, started to sell from that shop. तो 4 आने में जब कपड़ा बिकने लगा, उस जमाने में जब पैसे चलते थे, उस समय 4 आना बहुत ज्यादा था, but that is how the khadi fabric started to sell. Because it was not about at what price it was being sold. The factor was that the width of the fabric was very less and the count was only 4, जिसके कारण जो फैब्रिक था वो बहुत मोटा था। The fabric was suitable for very few garments and accessories. जैसे हम उसमें कुर्ते पजामे तो बना लेते थे, लेकिन मोटे मोटे, तभी आपने देखा होगा फ्रीडम स्ट्रगल में, और जो आपको पुराने क्लिप्स मिलते हैं, या तो उसमें धोती पहनी होती है या कुर्ते जो कोनों से भी लटके होते हैं, क्योंकि वो बहुत भारी होते थे, काउंट कम था और कपड़े की विड्थ छोटी होने के कारण उसमें जोड़ डाले जाते थे. However, the need of dhoti and sari, which is the main dress of the Indians, could not be filled. सारा कुछ था, लेकिन अल्टीमेटली तो हमें धोती चाहिए थी और हमें साड़ियाँ पहननी थी, और हमारी ये ज़रूरत पूरी नहीं हो पा रही थी. अभी भी ज़रूरत थी कि किस तरह डिज़ाइन थॉट्स से, किस तरह परम्यूटेशन कॉम्बिनेशन से इस कपड़े को और बेहतर बनाया जाए. प्रॉब्लम तो थी, क्योंकि आज़ादी भी लेनी थी, और हर कोई गांधी की जगह, गांधी जी की तरह बेसिक गमछा या लॉइन क्लॉथ पहन के सड़क पे नहीं जा पाता था. इसलिए गांधी जी ने कहा, I'm mad after Khadi and until death I will be Khadi mad. इसलिए वो चाहते थे कि बाकी सारे लोग भी खादी मैड हो जाएं, और वो सोचें कि किस तरह इसमें डेवलपमेंट होगी, वो फॉरेन गुड्स को बंद करें और अपनी खादी को डेवलप करें. और खादी, गांधी जी के सजेशंस पे खादी को कन्वर्ट किया गया क्लोथिंग में. इससे पहले क्लोथिंग नहीं बन रही थी, सिर्फ यार्डेजेस थी जिसे धोती या साड़ी की तरह पहना जा रहा था. तब it was converted into clothing, and in a few days 108 type of cloth articles were prepared and displayed in Khadi shops. Believe your ears, 108 different type of cloth articles. वो समय, जिस समय हमें कुर्ता और पजामा तो समझ आता था और कुछ नहीं समझ आता था, तब डिफरेंट आर्टिकल्स इसमें बनाए गए, एंड दैट इज वेयर द एक्चुअल बर्थ ऑफ डिजाइन स्टार्टेड इन खादी. एंड अल्टीमेटली, टू मीट द डिमांड ऑफ द स्टिच क्लोथिंग, स्टिचिंग सेक्शन भी खादी में खुला गया. वो लोग हमारे में से आज भी जो खादी की दुकानों पे जाते हैं, खादी के पुराने शोरूम्स जो भी रेनोवेट नहीं हुए, उनके किसी कोने में एक मास्टर जी जिसने मोटे चश्मे लगाए होते हैं आज भी बैठे होते हैं, बिकॉज दिस इज वन खादी हेरिटेज दैट हैज बीन मूविंग फ्रॉम वन स्टेज टू द अदर स्टेज. हम आज भी उससे रिलेट करते हैं. तो खादी के कपड़े के साथ डिजाइन डेवलपमेंट के लिए एक स्टिचिंग सेक्शन खोला गया खादी भंडारों में. पहले हम सिर्फ कपड़ा ही काउंटर से बेच रहे थे, लेकिन धीरे धीरे ये कॉन्सेप्ट बदला और खादी में रेडीमेड गारमेंट्स भी बनाकर उन्हें बेचा जाने लगा. एंड दिस इज व्हाट एक्चुअली लेड टू द इंक्रीज इन सेल्स एंड गिविंग द वर्ल्ड रेडीमेड क्लोथिंग इन खादी. So it is not only that the khadi fabric was made, the journey was a little tough because ready-mades had to be developed. हम आज प्रेस की बात करते हैं, आज हम couture की बात करते हैं. We talk about foreign brands making ready-made, making press and selling all over the world. But it was perhaps a khadi which started with the change of the ready-made garments first of all in the country. There were a lot of problems that came across जब ready-made clothing बन रही थी, क्योंकि कपड़ा चौड़ा कम था, काउंट बहुत ज्यादा था. पर धीरे धीरे एक सोल्यूशन ढूंढा गया. साइज को रिड्यूस किया गया साड़ी की 4 यार्ड एंड 44 इंचेस. और यहाँ चेंज ओवर कैसे आया, खूबसूरती कैसे आई, और हमारा जो प्रोडक्ट था वो मार्केट ओरिएंटेड कैसे हो पाया और यूजर फ्रेंडली कैसे हो पाया. जब लक्ष्मी असर, ये भी एक गांधी जी की एसोसिएट थे, गांधी जी के एसोसिएट थे, जब ये साबरमती आए, साबरमती आश्रम से आप सब रिलेट करते हैं, जब ये साबरमती आए तो वो अपने साथ एक धोती लेके आए जो 10 से 12 काउंट की थी, क्योंकि उस समय इतनी कोई टेस्टिंग तो थी नहीं. तो वी कैन से वेदर इट वाज 10 काउंट और 12, एंड दिस इज वन इंफॉर्मेशन व्हिच आई गॉट फ्रॉम ऑल दीज फ्रीडम फाइटर्स. सो दे सेड कि असर, व्हेन आई वाज टोल्ड कि असर 10 से 12 काउंट का कपड़ा लेके आए थे. एंड इस तरीके से जो खादी धोती थी, जो तिरुपुर और साउथ में बन रही थी, वो मुंबई में बिकने लगी. तो आप देखिए कि पहले तो हमने अपना कपड़ा खुद बनाया, दुकान खोली, उसे रेडीमेड में कन्वर्ट किया, लेकिन उसके बाद जो मूवमेंट है वो फ्रॉम वन प्लेस टू द अदर, हमने अपने प्रोडक्ट को मार्केट करना शुरू किया. जो साउथ की प्रोड्यूस थी वो मुंबई में बिकने लगी. So this is how the complete process of selling the ready-made started in the country in Khadi. And similarly, इसी तरीके की जो साड़ीज थी वो भी बनने लगी और बिकने लगी. पहले लेडीज बहुत रिलक्टेंट थी इतने मोटे मोटे कपड़े पहनने के लिए, बट what is important is the cause. What is important was the final destination that they were aiming at, and that was freedom. So they started wearing it. तो बहुत बार ऐसा होता है कि जो हमारी डिजाइन डेवलप होती है, एक तो वो यूजर फ्रेंडली हो या ना हो, तो आउट ऑफ कंपल्शंस आल्सो वी यूज देम, है ना. जब नैपीज इस्तेमाल हुए थे, इट वाज बच्चों के लिए नैपीज बनने शुरू हुए थे, है ना. बहुत सारा क्रिटिसिज्म हुआ था कि इसमें सिंथेटिक मटेरियल लगा है, इसमें ये लगा है, इसमें वो लगा है, लेकिन कंपल्शन और एक रिक्वायरमेंट थी जिसने उन्हें प्रमोट किया, एंड आज मार्केट इज फ्लडेड विद दोस प्रोडक्ट्स. So it was this compulsion with which this product also got initiated. But we understand कि इस तरीके से चरखा रीबॉर्न हुआ और हमारे कंट्री में हमें अपना फैब्रिक, एक फिलॉसफी का फैब्रिक वापस मिला। लेकिन ये हमें मिल गया, ये हमारे पास एक हेरिटेज है जो आज आ गई। सबसे बड़ी मुश्किल है, we all have been witnessing, there are so many people who come to us and many organizations who are having research scholars. प्रॉब्लम कहाँ आती है, जब उनका कोई स्टूडेंट खादी के ऊपर काम करना चाहता है। I have personally, because I'm speaking at a platform where it is about faculty development program, it is an appeal to all the faculty all around the country that let us try and pick up this concept and take it further, because there's a lot in design which can be developed. ये कपड़ा बहुत खूबसूरत कपड़ा है, but what is missing is the design development and the research in it. हम सब जानते हैं कि आर्ट एक मैन मेड एक्सप्रेशन है। अब मैं आपको एक छोटी सी केस स्टडी दिखाऊंगी और आपको ये बताऊंगी किस तरीके से वो कपड़े जो पुराने खादी भंडारों पे बिकते थे, आज हम उनको नई लुक दे रहे हैं और नई लुक देकर हम इन्हें किस तरह मार्केट ओरिएंटेड प्रोडक्ट बना के उनकी सेल एट एन इंटरनेशनल लेवल कैसे बढ़ा रहे हैं विद अ लिटिल बिट ऑफ चेंज। और ये काम हमने किया कैसे, अ लिटिल डिजाइन एंड आर्ट दैट हैज बीन अमलगमेटेड टुगेदर। तो इट्स एन एक्सप्रेशन। हमें लगता है कि ये चीज आर्ट से रिलेटेड है, हमें ये करनी चाहिए, लेकिन आर्ट भी एक्चुअली हमारी स्किल्स और इमेजिनेशन का मिक्स है। क्योंकि जब हमारी स्किल्स और इमेजिनेशन मिक्स होती हैं तो एस्थेटिक डेवलपमेंट्स होती हैं, और वो एनवायरनमेंट है या एक्सपीरियंस है जिसे हम लोगों के साथ बांट सकते हैं। And Dr. Monica, you will agree that when we had started discussing, I had to talk about the surface enrichment techniques. So I've just tried to show to all of you that how could a thought of the surface enrichment techniques change the overall look of the fabric. मैं ऑलरेडी आपको बता चुकी कि डिजाइन इज बेसिकली एन अरेंजमेंट ऑफ लाइन, फॉर्म, कलर, स्पेस, वैल्यू एंड टेक्सचर। हम सब जानते हैं। टेक्निकली जब आप डिजाइन डेवलप करते हैं उसकी रिक्वायरमेंट्स बहुत अलग होती हैं, लेकिन जब एस्थेटिक विजुअल डिजाइन, सरफेस डिजाइन डेवलप होता है तब हमें दो तरह की डिजाइन रिक्वायरमेंट्स होती है। एक स्ट्रक्चरल डिजाइन रिक्वायरमेंट होती है और एक डेकोरेटिव डिजाइन रिक्वायरमेंट होती है। So I will repeat that we have a requirement of two types of design, either a structural design or a decorative design. And my stress here in the presentation today for a different look to a khadi would be a decorative design. We understand that structural design is a design which is made by size, form, color, texture, है ना, किस उसका outer surface कहता है। और generally जो structural designs होते हैं वो हमारे words में स्टेज ओरिएंटेड डिजाइन होते हैं, रैंप ओरिएंटेड डिजाइन होते हैं, या जहां बॉडी को कंट्रोल करना होता है हम वहां उसका इस्तेमाल करते हैं। लेकिन डेकोरेटिव डिजाइन हमारे सरफेस और स्ट्रक्चरल डिजाइन की एक सरफेस एनरिचमेंट होती है जो किसी भी चीज को खूबसूरत बनाती है। लेकिन कमी कहाँ आ जाती है, जब हम बहुत सारा डिजाइन इस्तेमाल करना चाहते हैं, बहुत सारा डेकोरेटिव डिजाइन इस्तेमाल करना चाहते हैं। ऑल ऑफ अस हैव बीन शॉपिंग, all of us have been going from one shop to the other shop, है ना। We look at the design, अरे ये बड़ा अच्छा लग रहा है, ये बड़ा अच्छा लग रहा है, biggest of the malls with the biggest of the brands, लेकिन हम हर कुछ पिक नहीं करते। क्यों नहीं पिक करते? But we pick up only that which is where the decorative design is used in moderation. ये नहीं है कि हमने एक particular apparel product लिया और उसमें through and through से भर दें, नहीं। सबसे important factor होता है that the decorative design has to be used in moderation. So decoration has to be used as and when and wherever it is required, not everywhere. And it's also important that the decoration should be placed at structural points. आप सब relate करेंगे, majority of the time, especially female clothing, because it has a lot of decorative designs happening. कभी कभी गलत लैंडमार्क्स पे डिजाइन प्लेस होने के कारण जो पतला होता है वो मोटा लगने लग जाता है, जो मोटा होता है वो चौड़ा लगने लग जाता है, जो लंबा होता है वो ड्वार्फ लगने लग जाता है। तो इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कि जो हमारा डेकोरेशन होता है वो सिर्फ स्ट्रक्चरल पॉइंट्स पे ही प्लेस हो और बैकग्राउंड स्पेस हमारे पास बचे। ये नहीं है कि हमने एक फैक्टर लिया और उसे थ्रू एंड थ्रू भर दें। हम किसी भी डिजाइन को तब रिलेट कर पाते हैं जब उसके बैकग्राउंड में एक एम्प्टी स्पेस होती है। तभी कहते हैं कि सफेद है तो उसके ऊपर रंग दिखते हैं, काला है तो उसके ऊपर रंग दिखते हैं। कोई भी कलर के हिसाब से एक बैकग्राउंड मूवमेंट आप जरूर रखें। और एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट फैक्टर होता है, many a times I've been moving out in the market and looking at the infant clothing and the children's clothing. एक तो पहले कपड़ा ही सरफेस वाला होता है, व्हेन आई से सरफेस वाला होता है, इट्स आपकी लैंग्वेज में कुछ और कहते होंगे, बट हमारे लिए वी विल हैव स्लब्स ऑन द सरफेस, है ना, किसी पर्टिकुलर तरह का प्रिंट पैटर्न होता है, वो सब चीजें ऑलरेडी हैं, लेकिन उसके ऊपर भी उसको सीक्वेंस वर्क से भर देते हैं, है ना, उसके ऊपर भी उसे एम्ब्रॉयडरी कर देते हैं, बट दैट्स नॉट द राइट प्लेसमेंट ऑफ द डिजाइन। इट्स इंपॉर्टेंट कि जो सरफेस का पैटर्न है वो सरफेस की क्वालिटी को खत्म ना करे, हम इतने ज्यादा सितारे ना लगा दें कि उसके नीचे जो बेसिक ओम्ब्रे इफेक्ट हमने डेवलप किया हम उसे ही खत्म कर दें। सो दैट्स आल्सो वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट दैट वी हैव टू कीप इन माइंड। और उसके बाद सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट फैक्टर, जो बैकग्राउंड की शेप्स हैं उन्हें हमें बहुत ध्यान से समझना होता है ना। बहुत बार आप देखेंगे कि बैकग्राउंड में स्क्वायर्स एंड रेक्टेंगल्स एंड सर्कल्स होते हैं, ज्योमेट्री होती है, और ज्योमेट्री के ऊपर हम वी हैव अ रनिंग कैलीग्राफिक मूवमेंट हैपनिंग। ना तो हम नीचे की ज्योमेट्री को अंडरस्टैंड कर सकते हैं, ना ही ऊपर की कैलीग्राफी को अंडरस्टैंड कर सकते हैं। सो अगेन, जब ये चीजें हम ध्यान में रखते हैं तो इन एनी केस जो डेवलप होता है वो एक बहुत ही खूबसूरत प्रोडक्ट डेवलप होता है। हम सब जानते हैं, we've been doing a lot of digital printing and you people have been working on the technology for the development of the digital printing। मैं अब आपको सिर्फ ग्लिम्पसेस दिखाऊंगी कि हमने किन किन चीज़ों का इस्तेमाल कर डिज़ाइन डेवलप किए हैं and to actually see what's happening। We know हैंडीक्राफ्ट हम सबके आसपास हैं, हम इन हैंडीक्राफ्ट्स को पिक कर सकते हैं, उनके सर्फेसेस को पिक कर सकते हैं, उन्हें ट्रांसफर कर सकते हैं अपने सर्फेस को डेकोरेट करने के लिए। We all relate very well with embroidery, है ना, अलग अलग तरह की एम्ब्रॉयडरीज हैं हमारी, whether we talk about our mythology, हमारे epics हैं हमारी, और the way the traditions have been moving, हर घर में कोई ना कोई एम्ब्रॉयडर्ड प्रोडक्ट होता है, और एम्ब्रॉयडरी एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट मीन्स है हमारी सरफेस को खूबसूरत बनाने के लिए। लेकिन it's not only that we are limited to embroideries, it's not only that we have to be limited to a certain sort of print, there are many more techniques which can be today used for development of the base of any type of fabric. So I have just listed this because this was actually what I originally had to talk. There's a huge possibility of using quilting, applique, layering, patchwork, cutwork, है ना। हमें कभी कभी जब मैं लिस्ट डाउन कर रही थी मैंने खुद रियलाइज किया कि कितनी सारी चीजें हैं जिन्हें हम सरफेस पे डाल सकते हैं, लेकिन अल्टीमेटली हम करते क्या है कि बस सिर्फ प्रिंटिंग कर लो और काम खत्म हो जाए। अगर हमारे पास एम्ब्रॉयडरी है, वी हैव हैंड एम्ब्रॉयडरी एंड मशीन एम्ब्रॉयडरी, एंड विद द इंडियन हेरिटेज वी हैव ऑलमोस्ट लाइक 108 डिफरेंट टाइप ऑफ एम्ब्रॉयडरीज इन द कंट्री। और ये मैंने सिर्फ मेजर एम्ब्रॉयडरीज के बारे में आपसे बात की है। हजारों एम्ब्रॉयडरीज है हमारे हिंदुस्तान में जिसका इस्तेमाल हो रहा है। We can make use of different sewing techniques to ultimately develop the surface. We can have different dyeing techniques. We can do macrame, and we can also do printing to make the surface beautiful. Now, I'm coming back to the thought. हम खादी से चले थे, खादी पे वापस आते हैं। एक जनरल मैंने आपको रन थ्रू दिया कि ये टेक्निक्स हैं जिनका इस्तेमाल कर करके हम अपने किसी मटेरियल को खूबसूरत बना सकते हैं। आज हम खादी को खूबसूरत बनाएंगे। ये आपके सामने, आई एम श्योर इफ देयर आर फीमेल्स इन द ग्रुप टुडे वुड रिलेट, ये झबले हुआ करते थे जो हमने खुद भी पहने हैं, एंड हमारी ग्रैनीज हमारे लिए बनाती थी। और खादी की दुकानों पे इस तरीके के छोटे छोटे झबले बिकते थे। मैंने सिर्फ इन्हें थोड़ा सा सुंदर बनाने के लिए इसमें लेस और रिबन डाल दिया है, इन स्पेशली 2 pieces that you can see, one on the dress D1 and the dress D4. Otherwise, these are just the basic forms which are available at the Khadi stores. थोड़ा सा वेरिएशन इसमें हमने डेवलप किया। बेसिक फॉर्म्स आप देखें, फिगर D2A, D2C, D2E, and and also D2D are the ones which are the basic forms। लेकिन उन बेसिक फॉर्म्स को हमने थोड़ा सा वेरिएट कर दिया, थोड़ी सी उसमें कॉर्ड्स इंसर्ट करी, थोड़े से रिबन्स एंड लेसेस इंसर्ट किए, और हमने एक न्यू लुक देने की कोशिश की। हम सब कहते हैं हर इंस्टीट्यूशन में ना डिफरेंट तरह के मूड बोर्ड पढ़ाए जाते हैं और बड़ी बड़ी कहानियां, आप इससे इंस्पिरेशन लो, इससे इंस्पिरेशन लो, हम सब गुम जाते हैं। लेकिन डिजाइनिंग एक बहुत ही सिंपल एस्पेक्ट है, हम उसे जितना सिंपल रखें उतना आसान है। तो आपने देखा व्हाट आई हैव इन फ्रंट ऑफ मी इज द किड्स इन्फेंट्स क्लोथिंग। तो हम क्या एक्सपेक्ट करते हैं बच्चे से, हम चाहते हैं वो खुश रहे, तो हमने अपने डिजाइन डेवलपमेंट का मूड ही हैप्पी रख लिया। ठीक है, जब भी हम डिजाइन करते हैं, जब भी हम पढ़ते हैं, हम हर हिस्ट्री में, हर स्टोरी में, हर कॉन्सेप्ट की डेवलपमेंट में अंडरस्टैंड करते हैं कि जो मोटिव्स होते हैं उसकी सराउंडिंग से लिए जाते हैं। हम सब पंजाब से हैं, फुलकारी में भी कहीं बेलन बाग मिलता है, कहीं धनिया बाग मिलता है, कहीं लौकी बाग मिलता है। क्यों? बिकॉज दीज वर द वेजिटेबल्स व्हिच वर अवेलेबल इन द सराउंडिंग। सो इसलिए हमने इंस्पिरेशन इस कलेक्शन के लिए क्या ली? नेचर ली। और सबसे आसान बेस क्या होता है काम करने के लिए, या जिसके ऊपर बहुत ज्यादा एक्सपेरिमेंट हो सकता है, वो होता है वाइट। एंड क्योंकि इन्फेंट्स हैं, जिसके बारे में मैं आपके साथ क्लोथिंग शेयर कर रही हूँ, वो बहुत ही नेसेंट, बहुत नेव एंड पीसफुल क्रीचर होता है, इसलिए वाइट एज अ बेस लिया गया। और डिफरेंट टाइप ऑफ सरफेस डेवलपमेंट जिसकी मैंने आपसे बात की, उसका इस्तेमाल किया गया। जैसे कि मैंने आपको पिछली स्लाइड में बताया, हम मूड के बारे में बात करते हैं, लेकिन एक थॉट लेना बहुत ज़रूरी है, बिल्कुल लेना ज़रूरी है, क्योंकि हम इन्फेंट से बात कर रहे हैं। तो इन्फेंट्स के माइंड में कोई भी इमेज क्लैरिटी नहीं होती, कुछ पिक्चर क्लैरिटी नहीं होती। उसको सूरज वैसा नहीं दिखता जैसा हमें दिखता है, उसको रंग वैसे नहीं दिखते जैसे हम दिखते हैं। एट द टाइम ऑफ द बर्थ देयर इज अ लिमिटेड नंबर ऑफ कलर्स दैट अ चाइल्ड कैन, इन्फेंट कैन एक्चुअली see with the naked eye. So उन चीज़ों को ध्यान में रखते हुए we have to develop a small little thought जिसके ऊपर हम काम करेंगे, जिसे बच्चा जब पहनेगा कपड़े को, वो उन इमेजेस को अल्टीमेटली अपनी आंखों में रख पाएगा। कितनी सारी टेक्निक्स मैंने आपको दिखाई, लेकिन जो मैं आपके साथ सैम्पल्स शेयर करूंगी जिसके ऊपर काम किया गया, वी पिक्ड अप अ फ्यू ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ द मार्केट डिमांड, या छोटा सा हमने असेसमेंट अपने स्टोर पे कराया। पीपल जनरली वांटेड क्लोथिंग which would have a lot of painting and embroidery, है ना। हम भी जब मार्केट में कुछ भी प्रोडक्ट वो बेचते हैं, तो हमारी कस्टमर की डिमांड को अंडरस्टैंड करना, उसकी रिक्वायरमेंट को अंडरस्टैंड करना बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। तो ये काम भी जब हमने किया, तो हमने पीपल वांटेड कि उसके ऊपर छोटी छोटी प्रिंटिंग और एम्ब्रॉयडरी हो। तो प्रिंटिंग वॉज नॉट दैट फीजिबल ऑन दिस पर्टिकुलर टाइप ऑफ खादी दैट वी यूज, सो वी मेड यूज ऑफ हैंड पेंटिंग, मशीन स्विंग एंड एम्ब्रॉयडरी। हर कोई चाहता था कि मशीन स्विंग बहुत हो, क्योंकि आसान लगती है, सुंदर लगती है। थोड़ा सा वार्मथ के लिए they wanted that infants के कपड़ों में quilting हो, patchwork हो, applique हो. Now, this is going to be a total visual delight for all of you. This is the type of the work which was developed. The fabric that you see in front of you is 80 to 90 count khadi. It's a very, very fine count khadi that has been used to develop the surface. Because we were working on an assignment where we were developing the materials for fabrics and the garments for infants. तो आप देख रहे हैं आपके सामने ये जो सैम्पल्स डेवलप हैं, ये पेंटिंग एंड एम्ब्रॉयडरी के सैम्पल हैं। The type of stitches which have been used are the ones which are good for the body, because this stitch should ultimately not lead to any sort of rashes. You'll be surprised जब हम डिजाइन डेवलपमेंट पे काम करते हैं, वो भी बॉडीली डिजाइन डेवलपमेंट एंड सरफेस विजुअल डिजाइन डेवलपमेंट पे, it is not only the colors and such things that have to matter. It is also the feel, the texture, the way it looks, and would it harm the body of an individual, वो भी हमें देखना पड़ता है। ये अभी मैंने आपको enlargements दिखाई हैं, जिसमें आपको ये stitches बहुत बड़े लग रहे हैं। They are very, very small stitches which have been used, and we picked up the motifs just from the surroundings. When this work was done, this is almost like 5 to 6 years back when the samples were developed. Pokemon बहुत देखा जाता था, बच्चे बहुत सारा Pokemon देखते थे, and the to-be mothers would end up watching Pokemon. So that is why we had picked up this motif, and whatever you can see in your surroundings, the way in the springtime when we would see the frogs and the birds chirping, so you can see how the motifs have been developed in a form of a composition. और हर जगह जो basic requirements of the design placement है वो ध्यान में रखी जाती है. That moderation factor is very important, and also the size of motif vis-a-vis the size of the individual who has to wear that particular garment is also very important. And these are all handmade samples. This is all done with hand embroideries. Coming to the next one, all of us relate very, very well, है ना. हम सब मशीनों के साथ काम करते हैं. हर इंस्टीट्यूशन, हर जगह पे आज मशीन के ऊपर काम सिखाया जा रहा है. But let me tell you that this single needle lock stitch is a gem in itself. It is not only that ultimately we can stitch with this garment, but we can develop excellent surfaces using single needle lock stitch machines. So all the samples that you see in front of you have been developed by the usage of single needle lock stitch machine. It's just the permutation combination, it's just the different type of the technique. You can see how beautifully the pin tucks have been used. The pin tucks gathers and the ruffles, the pleated ruffles have been put together You can see how the broad tucks have been made, variated tucks. They have been used. Again, the broad tucks have been given a camouflage of smocking, but these are basically the broad tucks. Again, the pleated ruffles, which has wherein we try to create a surface, and also you can see these small little patches. And whatever I'm talking to you, whatever I'm showing you, this is all Khadi. Again, a few more techniques that have been developed. You know, again, a camouflage smocking. This is otherwise elastic shirring, which has been used here. Inverted box pleats converted into a surface, ruffles, and more for you to see. And yes, a little experimentation. When the sewing and embroidery was being used, we tried to make a patch of the ruffle and try and put it on a factor. So you can see this is the type of experiment which is generally done in design. I have a few swatches in quilting also to share with you people, because depending upon the age of the child, very fine quilting bases were used. So much so, at many places, we had only used 2 more layers of the fabric wherever the quilting was required to be done, or only a paper fuse, and that too dissolvable was used, so that once the factor is developed, we would have the puckering surface, but then the rest will move. This Semper D8 that you see, this has the mesh of the leftovers of the silken yarns inside the fabric as a quilting base, which is giving a camouflage look here. And you'll be happy to understand that this all has been done with single needle lock stitch machine. All these first 2 samples are single needle lock stitch machine. This also has single needle lock stitch machine. This is hand sewn. This is also hand stitched. So just mixtures of all these. Something that grannies and moms relate very well, patchwork. But then this is the toughest to ultimately develop. But a lot of experimentation we keep on doing also. Hello? I'm so sorry. All right. So for everybody, I'm so sorry. Perhaps when I was talking, I may have changed my mode of communication. I will come back to English. So we also have the samples that you can see in front are the patchwork samples, wherein we've tried to combine different pieces together. And you see the count of the fabric here also makes a lot of a difference. I cannot use a different count fabric and then try and develop a patch out of it. The count has to match, because while development of the design, the stitches and the angles of the attachment of the design also has to match, especially when you look at sample number D11. When this particular patch is developed, it is not only the count which matters, it is also the seams which matters. The way you join the seams only give the effect of the design. The visual design is possible only with the right stitching and patching it together. So these are all the patchwork samples in front of you. A little tough sample to develop, but then again a patchwork sample, which is an assorted patchwork. This could not be done with a single needle lock stitch machine, so I had to try and mix baby hem and then join it with a dissolvable fuse. Applique work. These are a few samples which are really close to my heart, and you see how aesthetically the applique could be developed. Generally, we think about applique, square pieces, where we pick up the square pieces, we take geometry and try and convert it into applique. No, it's not that. Anything which is fixed on a surface to give a beautiful look gives us a feel of an applique work. So you can see whatever has been done is all out of the remnant. You know, whenever we randomly develop samples, we never procure the fabric from the market. Yes, we procure the base fabric, but surface development, we rarely procure the fabric. Whatever remnants are available, generally we tie up with the industries who do a lot of production and garment making. So we pick up the remnants from them and try and develop samples out of it. And you can see the way the butterfly just looks to be flying. And this is a pocket application with a ruffle, but ultimately an applique conversion. A beautiful example of layering applique on the side that you can see. One of the tough assignments, again, a layering, a multicolored layering, which has been done. You may feel that I'm trying to show you a different type of swatches, but when it'll come to application, it will not be possible. No, I will take you through a complete journey, and you will see how these have already been applied on the garments and they're being sold. So even this that you can see, you have to apply your mind. As I was saying, that you have to pick up the design in moderation, and the background surface has to be visible. See, the right choice of the fabric is so important. Even if we had to develop the leaves, we tried and picked up a polka dot material, wherein partial leaf could be green and the remaining could be white, because there is no scope of shading happening in applique, but we still have to give an effect of a leaf which looks folded. So that is what has to be in the mind while we are working on any type of an assignment. You can see these flowers with the button in the center, but you have to understand this is not actually a button. This looks like a button because while designing, we also kept in mind that the child is very small, and by mistake, the child may not pluck the button and put it ultimately into the mouth. So we had to avoid using that also. So this gives the look of a button, but it's not a button. And again, you can see that I have in front to show you. I used layering in a different manner, but this here the layering has been used in the form of an applique. And surprisingly, when we were working, we came across this chikankari material, which was lying waste. We got this from one of the factory. It was lying waste. We developed the base material and just tried to put patches of the flowers in the center. Now comes the real essence. Now comes the challenge. We've done a lot of samples. You people do a lot of designing, but the error comes the moment it is the application of the swatch on the garment. So you can see all these surface developed swatches on one side, and these are two garments on which these have to be applied. And this is the look. We have to understand as teachers and also as students or the scholars once we're working, that those factors of the placement of the designs have to be kept in mind. I will take you back, suppose dress D2C1, I will take you back to the original swatch. If you can see the swatch here, it's right here. This is how the swatch looks, but the moment it has to be applied, it has to be converted into a composition. If I would pick up this and place it exactly the same on the other side, it would not be a happy design. So the visual and the aesthetics make a lot of a difference. And similarly, in D2C11, again, if you see, this is the swatch right here. But once we've been able to develop a garment, then I could not have this green surface spread through and through, because it had to give a look of a tree as well. So that design thought has to be steady with us all through. And you see, this is one garment and this is the other garment where the similar swatch has been placed but differently. Here the ribbon in a lace is adding a movement, and here the thread crossing is adding a movement. The cord is controlling the style here, and the buttons are holding the movement here. So that's how the things have to go. And similarly, for this particular thing, design D4C11, when we are trying to place the swatch, again, we're working on the moderation of the design placements and also on these buds that have been placed. But whenever the design development is done, we cannot work only on the components. Design developed in components does not have market as much as a complete ensemble or a complete product line has. So whenever you're working with any sort of a design, especially the apparel design, you have to see that it is a collection. For example, if you're making clothing for an infant or for a neonatal, nobody would only buy a jhabla. The major problem there is the oozing out of the water from the mouth of the child. So what is very, very important factor for the children is a bib also alongside, and the placement of the design is also required to be supported and complemented. Times have changed. Initially, we used to have nappies. Now there are times when everybody is making the children wear diapers. So what is required to be developed is a diaper cover rather than the nappy. So you can see the type of design development which was done there has also been complemented in the different type of diaper covers which have been used here. And this gives a complete range of products, small little set of products for children. You can see this for females and you can also see this for males. And then, yes, forever, whenever we are developing, it's important that we have certain type of, cost sheets also going on. So this is one type of a development, the design development and an assignment that we've done for a particular brand. But we cannot develop anything which doesn't have a future. We understood the importance of the material. We understood the importance of the design process. We tried and developed the product. But do you think it's easy for us to sell a beautiful product which doesn't have a beautiful packaging? So whenever we talk about the design, it is a total package. So people generally do not relate with good labels and good tags, especially for the Khadi related materials. So it's important that it's not only the government, but it is also about the logo that has to be very well thought and developed for. We have to also work on the labels, and we also have to work on the tags, which is the most important factor. So especially in apparel design and to creative design, then when we work on assignments, we work on this in total. And the most important factor, whatever we are trying to sell, let us try and register it also. And without doing that, it's not really going to work. There are so many researches that I generally come across because I do a lot of work in Khadi and I get a lot of PhD theses also for marking. There'll be a lot of design development that's happening, but that design finishes in the books. That never reaches the public. So as teachers, it is our moral responsibility to tell our students and guide them that whatever we are developing, try and get it registered. Also, documentation and registration is a very, very important factor. So just trying to sum it up. Initially, Khadi was famous for being associated with freedom struggle, and today it is a fashion statement. It is only an example of an infant wear that I've given you, but you must have been hearing about Khadi at different news channels, at different platforms. We realize the importance, we have witnessed the importance, but initially this fabric was considered to be very dull, heavy, coarse fabric. I remember, and since when Smriti was sharing a little detail, there's something that I want to tell you. It is only my interest for Khadi that made me start my own brand called as Khadi Plus. I started this brand in 2007. And when I started this brand, the biggest challenge for me was that I could not sell this brand at a very dull and a dingy showroom that Khadi was boasting about and would say, "Nahi, hamari dukaan to badi achhi hai, yahan saman bikta hai." I remember the moment I entered that Khadi store for the first time in Sector 17, when I made up my mind to sell the product, it was like a shock to me. I said, "Yahan to mera kapda kabhi bik hi nahi sakta." We wanted to start with women's wear at that particular time, so we had to renovate that store. And I remember May 19, 2007, when for the first time we were inaugurating the store after renovation. And when people were moving in the Khadi store, they were surprised because they would consider Khadi only to be very dull, heavy, and coarse. And it took us almost 8 to 9 years to actually teach the footfall of Chandigarh and make them understand that Khadi could look that beautiful also. So whenever we are working on any particular design assignment, it's important that the basic understanding has to travel from one individual to the other, and it has to move further. Today, it is a very, very contemporary, elegant, and indigenous look which has been associated with Khadi. Today, it is not only about rural development. This is much more than rural development. Today, you can find all possible type of colors in Khadi. Initially, we used to have only, the fabric dyed Khadi. Now you get a beautiful range of yarn dyed Khadi. All Khadi materials which are available in different type of stores. You will find wonderful cotton Khadi. You would find excellent silk Khadi. You would find a lot of permutations and combinations. So initially, even if people used to feel that it's a poor man's fabric, now that's not actually the reality. People who actually understand Khadi and they know that it is made from hand-spun and hand-woven fabric, you would understand that it's a very, very expensive material. So ultimately, I would just want to sum up and say that today we have a wide range of products which are available in Khadi, let it be jackets, skirts, kurtas, dupattas, sarees, crop tops, capris, trousers, wraparounds, spaghettis, and we are selling Prerna Designs offshores. We have a store of Khadi in London which is selling this like hotcakes. So we're talking about design development, we're talking about Khadi, we're talking about the saleability of the product. So, and I feel very proud to say that today Khadi ranges between rupees 160 a meter to 1500 a meter, and there's much, much more. So an appeal to all teachers, please motivate your research scholars to take up a lot of projects. There is a lot that can be done in Khadi. Still, there are so many problems. There is limitation of the length of the bolt that can be produced in Khadi. There is still limitation of the varying size of the Khadi, because tendering is a difficult procedure, especially in case of the Khadi. The type of weavers that who are weaving it and the surroundings wherein they are weaving it, tender is a nightmare to them. So I would, that's an appeal to all of you, and I'm sure I have been able to share with you a little insight about Khadi. So now everything on you. Any questions, you're most welcome.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Poonam. I have a question, ma'am.
Yeah.
At the end, you spoke about the problems that still the weavers of Khadi are facing. So, how can the technical people help them? In what way?
Yeah. Yes. Ma'am, that's a very, very important factor, because I've been working with Khadi for almost like 15, 16 years now. You know, the thought is that even if you're trying to tell them that they need to improve and change, they would not. You'll be surprised that whenever we have to work on the spinning of the Khadi, because the climatic conditions play a very, very important factor, we are not able to get the requisite spinning. Maybe we can do a lot of experimentation on the spinning wheels. And there is a lot that has been developed. There are various charkhas that have been developed, especially by the Gandhian institution. However, the problem still remains. Because when it is the technical aspect required, maybe it is the development in the looms that can be worked, because this process of hand spinning cannot be mechanized. That's very clear with us. And because of everything which is based on hand, we have very less production. Trust me, the women's wear and the menswear brand that we are selling, many a times we are not able to make more than 11 sets in one color. The only reason is that one bolt is not similar to the other. No matter how hard we try and tell the people to use the similar warp and weft, but ultimately, when the fabric is woven, you would get slubs at certain places, you would not get slubs at the other places, right? You would get a patch of a color movement at one place, you would not get at the other place, because the moment we use natural dyes for directly dyeing the fabric, the color bleeding happens. So there are so many problems, ma'am, that we face while we're actually dealing with it. So there we would need the intervention of the technical experts.
So, ma'am, has this been tried ever on a power loom? Like any design that has been tried on a power loom for Khadi?
Ma'am, the point is the beauty and the origin of Khadi goes off the moment it is a power loom that is involved. Because then, see, there are two things that I'm very, very clear about. When we talk about Khadi, it is 100% hand woven, hand spun. That is why it is very expensive. Most of the time, most of the Khadi stores also do not sell genuine Khadi, because that's very expensive. However, on the other side, the handloom is one material wherein you can use mill-made yarn and then develop it on the handlooms. But in Khadi, it has to be hand spun yarn only that has to be used. So this is the only little difference. The moment it will go to the power loom, the beauty is gone, because the usage of hand is gone. You would see at the female, if you've ever come across Pochampalli sarees or the Ikkat or the Maheshwaris, you can see a lot of power loom variations which are coming to the market today. But then they are not the original Maheshwaris. They are not the original Patolas. They are not the original Pochampallis, because that hand is gone. So I do not know. That's one field that we have not been able to do anything about. If we can work upon the improvement of the handlooms, maybe, and also a little improvement in the process of hand spinning, maybe something new variation can come. At this platform, I would also want to share with all my people, if I have few people from down south, there is one very beautiful form of Khadi which is called as Kunzuru Khadi. Very, very rarely available, almost like an extinct quality of Khadi. This is one Khadi wherein the jaw of the fish, all will be surprised to understand, because that's a fish eating area. So the jaw of the fish is used as a comb to ultimately spin the yarn. तो हम जब धागे को पहले कार्डिंग जिनिंग करनी होती है तो उसमें हम जॉ का इस्तेमाल करते हैं. So ma'am, that is the type of the product that I'm trying to share with everybody today. So that is where we need researches. Maybe at that point of time when the spinning is happening, instead of that jaw of the fish, some sort of a beautiful comb could be developed, wherein the combing process becomes easier because we can't move on to the machines.
Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am. Now we can have questions from the other participants, please.
Yeah, good morning, ma'am.
Good morning,
This is
sir.
Dr. from NIIFT Jodhpur. So it was interesting, like the presentation and the content-wise, I like it. Just I have the one query because as we know that Khadi is like hand woven, hand spun, everything that by the hand only. But due to that, because that earlier participants also asked the same thing, like because of that power loom and all, we can make and it's also expensive. As we know by the construction, by the feel and all, we can differentiate.
Yes.
But is there any possibilities like we can differentiate easily the Khadi fabric or it may be the machine made because maybe the combination or it may be the mixing. So is it any other possibility that we can identify?
To be very, very honest, Mr. I didn't get your DOPSA. To be very honest with you, it's now so many years down the lane that I've been able to differentiate. There is no visual method of differentiation. We ultimately have to take the material to the laboratory for the actual judgment happening, because we understand here also we're using these staples, and in so many power loom materials also we're using the staple, but the fineness of the material in the power loom is much more as compared to this. But through power loom also we are developing rough materials. So visually it is very, very tough to make a difference between khadi and the regular cotton. That is why there is so many so many mixings which are happening. That is why the customers feel cheated when they go to the khadi store, and ultimately they realize that they picked up the power loom material. So that is one factor. That is why on all the good stores of the country, wherever genuine khadi is being sold, they certify the khadi. Initially, you've heard about silk mark. Now there is khadi mark also, which is coming, and government is promoting this khadi mark. All the products which are 100% khadi will have this khadi mark on it, because it's very, very difficult to visually differentiate.
Yeah, because it's like as a technically we can see and we can understand, but those are normal persons because they don't know, because they feel if I'm saying that silk or viscose, they are the silk, they will consider as a silk. But as like how is there any possibilities by that maybe, or there may be because these were I was aware this I just confirmed because as I gone through that your work and it was interesting in terms of explorations and the material everything, because it's as I'm in that NIIFT, so it's as a fashion design institute, because that the students also exploring these other things. But sometimes also they are also not aware. But as we how we can like the khadi, because as we know the all process are the hand process only. There is nothing the machine is. So that's why I'm just asking, is there any possibility? That's why. Okay, thank you so much, ma'am.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Thank you, ma'am.
So any more questions?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I just want to on the fabric.
Dr. Saab, you're not audible to me, please.
Now I am audible.
Yeah. Yes. Better.
Okay, madam. Just I want to ask, you can do any finishing treatment on the garments in terms of any finishing like engine finishing.
Yeah. See, as far as the treatments are concerned, the technical people are very good at it. They're trying to do a lot of micro encapsulation and such like things. We've also experimented. We did micro encapsulation on khadi, but let me tell you, khadi is such a beautiful fabric. With all its actual qualities, the moment we make use of chemicals on the surface, the core beauty and the heritage for which we are promoting it goes haywire. That is why even if we did such like experiments at the earlier, but we have discontinued those experiments. We've actually did, because the basic quality of the fabric finishes the moment we're trying to give any sort of a finishing to the surface. The minimal finishes that are being done are softener additions to the fabric, and that too to the coarse cotton fabric. All of us must have heard about the कानपुरी खादी, है ना? कानपुरी कुर्ता तो ऑलमोस्ट हर हिंदुस्तानी मेल ने आज नहीं तो कल पहना है, नहीं तो आने वाले टाइम में वो कानपुरी खादी का कुर्ता जरूर पहनता है. तो कानपुरी खादी का जो कुर्ता होता है वो बहुत कोर्स फैब्रिक से बनता है और स्लब इंटरवेंशन इतनी ज्यादा सरफेस पे होती है, और उसके कारण जिस तरह से वो वीव होता है, क्योंकि सॉफ्ट वीव्स होती हैं, लूज वीव होती है, वो श्रिंक भी बहुत होता है. So at Khadi Plus, what we are trying to do is we are trying to do preliminary shrinkages. लेकिन श्रिंकेज कंट्रोल भी हम केमिकल से ना करके मल्टीपल वॉशेस से कर रहे हैं, और फिर हम उसको ओवर डाई भी करते हैं बहुत बार, और उसकी स्लब्स की लुक्स को मेंटेन करके रखते हैं, और थोड़े बहुत सॉफ्टनेस, नथिंग मोर देन ओनली विद इन द परमिसिबल लिमिट्स, सो दैट इट डज नॉट लूज इट्स ओरिजिनल कैरेक्टर. बट एक्सपेरिमेंट्स हो रहे हैं सर.
एक क्वेश्चन था कि if the craftsman or the artisan just take on the mill and make on handloom, does it khadi fabric this one?
No. So that is one thing that I specially stressed upon right in the beginning, that if it is a mill-made yarn on the handloom, then it is a handloom fabric which is woven. It is not khadi. For khadi to be woven and to be khadi, the way it is called, it has to be hand spun and hand woven. That's very
important. That is khadi.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That
totally hand spun and hand woven. Thank
you very much.
Good morning, ma'am. One question to ask.
Yes.
Ma'am, yesterday we had session on comfort. So, ma'am, can you please put on light regarding the comfort and the skin touch of the khadi fabric?
Oh, absolutely. Ma'am, can I have your name, please?
Yes, ma'am. I'm Tanya Verma, Assistant Professor, Chandigarh University.
Oh, Tanya, very good to hear this out from you. Comfort is the primary requirement of today's world, and the case that I shared with you was about infant clothing. As I said, there are different varieties of khadi depending upon the yarn count, है ना? वो हम सब टेक्निकल लोग yarn count को understand करते हैं. कितना coarser count होता है तो हमारा कपड़ा बहुत कोर्स बनता है, पर डिपेंडिंग अपॉन द रिक्वायरमेंट ऑफ द बॉडी हम इस कपड़े की फाइननेस के ऊपर काम करते हैं. स्पेशली फॉर द इन्फेंट, एज आई सेड, काउंट रेंजिंग बिटवीन 80 to 90. मैं इसको कांस्टेंट भी नहीं आपको कह पाई, मैं ये भी नहीं कह पाई कि मेरी टेस्टिंग के बाद इसमें 86 काउंट आया कि ये आया. हमने जब अपने डिफरेंट मटेरियल 5 मीटर मटेरियल के स्वॉचेस को रैंडमली डिफरेंट पार्ट से असेस कराया और इसके काउंट को चेक कराया, वो हर जगह पे अलग था. दैट इज द ब्यूटी ऑफ खादी. एंड एज फार एज कंफर्ट इज कंसर्न, कंसिडरिंग दैट इट इज 100% कॉटन, इट इज मेड फ्रॉम द स्टेपल फाइबर्स and the property of keeping the body warm and cool depending upon the fabric structure, that is what makes it very comfortable. आप ये देखें, आप जितने गर्म इलाकों में जाते हैं, हम as the middle class and the upper middle class who are so comfortable in ACs these days, हमें लगता है कि कपड़ा बहुत पतला होना चाहिए, मुलायम होना चाहिए, हमारी बॉडी को हर्ट करता है, हमारी सेंसिटिव बॉडीज हैं. लेकिन आप देखें, जितने ज्यादा गर्म इलाके होते हैं वो उतनी ही मोटी खादी पहनते हैं, क्योंकि जब वो इतनी मोटी खादी पहनते हैं, एक तो उसकी वीव लूज होती है, उसको पहन के पसीना आता है, और जब हवा पास होती है तो वो जो ठंडक का इफेक्ट देती है, वही हमारी बॉडी को बेसिक कंफर्ट देता है. सो डिपेंडिंग अपॉन द फाइननेस और द कोर्सनेस ऑफ द yarn, द कंफर्ट टू द बॉडी वेरीज, है ना. तो डिपेंडिंग अपॉन कि हम कितने सेंसिटिव हैं, हम वेट ऑफ द मटेरियल को वेरी करा सकते हैं. कुछ लोग भारी कपड़े नहीं पहन सकते, उनके कंधे दुखने लग जाते हैं. For them we propose a finer count khadi, and the ones who can handle and who have to move out, आप देखें खेतों में कितने लोग आप देखते हैं उन्होंने खादी के कुर्ते पहने होते हैं, इतने मोटे, लेकिन because that helps them to breathe well in summer. That's what comfort and khadi are directly proportional to each other, I would say.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
My pleasure.
So, any more questions? Pratik, can you check it in the chat box? Is there any question there?
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello.
I don't think so. There are any more questions in the chat box.
There is no question, ma'am.
Ma'am, can you just explain me the Pandora khadi?
Yeah, it's not Pandora khadi, it is Punduru, Punduru. as I said, that whatever is developed out of the necessity from the surroundings, you know. So जिस तरीके से हम लोगों ने कांथा, you know, the way likewise we've studied and understood the stories of kanthas and fulkaris, that is the similar way the khadi originated. So in this particular village of Kunduru in Andhra, this particular type of khadi started. They had no means of hand spinning, you know, unke paas, there were no specific combers, there were no, you know, carding machines which are available. So machhi khate the, or when they used to eat fish, the jaw of the fish was used to comb the yarn, and as a result the fabric was woven. You know, वो spun yarn का, they would make use of that spun yarn and weave fabric out of it. Considering कि वो jaw के जो teeth होते थे, the teeth were very very fine. As a result, very fine count khadi could be spun and ultimately the fabric woven. And at this point of time, I would also tell you that it's not possible to weave any type of khadi in any particular state of the country. Depending upon the climatic conditions and also depending upon the humidity, the type of the yarn that can be spun and ultimately converted into the khadi fabric varies. We all must understand and know that there is a particular place in UP which is called as Nadia Dwala, in which artificial humidifiers have been placed to weave to spin a specific type of count of khadi. So that's the type of fabric that I'm talking to you about, and a very comfortable and very upmarket fabric, and there's a lot of scope for development of this particular material for future of India.
Thank you, ma'am.
My pleasure.
Hello.
Hello.
Excuse me.
Yes, yes.
हाँ मैम, वन क्वेश्चन राइज करना था मैम। मैम एक्चुअली हम न्यू फाइबर, जैसे कोई भी न्यू फाइबर है, वो जैसे हम डेवलप करके मे बी यूज फॉर इन खादी more comfort compared to present in for present जो market में अब जो अभी product है available है, then some maybe some problem in regarding comfort property as well as yours for discussion for this all PPT slide for this maybe new fiber develop then maybe comfort property better and or all our thing is better, so maybe handloom product is achieve better compared to present. I have developed a new fiber compared to cotton fiber to better these fibers because more cellulose content compared to cotton normally 90 to 95% cellulose content, same cellulose content in my fiber, but moisture again same 8.5%, but more hollow fiber inside. So maybe easily available and easily for producing for this fiber process, and maybe a better help for in handloom and viewers for regarding for this. So maybe some suggestion for regarding for this.
All right, Doctor, one thing is very, very clear. I am all for khadi, and the core of khadi is that it's hand woven and hand spun, and it's all natural in nature. You know, you can have wool khadi, you can have silk khadi, you can have cotton khadi. There is so much of scope of development of new yarns which are being done, have been done from times and times, and will continue to be happening in futures. But what I'm trying to tell you, I will give you a very, very basic example. Ages now we've been wearing gold. Gold has its own beauty. We may have platinum, we may have diamonds, we may have a permutation combination of two different type of metals happening, which would give us a better design oriented product, which would give us a very price friendly product. But original is original. So what I'm trying to say is that if we have this heritage of a country and we have the technology of the development, let us preserve it and give it a surface design orientation and make it spread worldwide. That's the main call that I want to take and tell my teachers, that new developments are very important in terms of the technical breakup and mixings and development of new fibers. But if we have something which is gold with us. Let us not dilute it to brass. Let it remain gold and give it beautiful surface designs. You know, instead of keeping a gold rock, let us make a beautiful ring out of it. Let us make a beautiful pendant out of it. Let us make a beautiful headgear out of it and make it, you know, and spread it more. That's the core. So that's the type of research which I would want to request all my colleagues to motivate the students to get into.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm always for what you're developing. Yeah.
Yes. Actually, ma'am, my fiber is like silk, like a same appearance, shining more compared to other fiber, like similar to silk fiber.
Excellent.
So that I want to try for this fiber in handloom process, because this fiber very easily available and easily for producing a fiber process. Then more help for Indian for small scale industry scale and village people news for this startup process regarding for
that'll be
handloom
wonderful.
and other.
I think you can have 1 or 2 people who can develop samples for you on the sample loom. And I think there is no dearth of projects with us in India.
Yes,
so we can pick up a project and then you can take your study forward, please.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Okay. Thank you so much. Okay.
Ma'am, good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Ma'am, I'm Dr. Kamal from School of Fashion Design, Lovely Professional University, ma'am.
Fine, sir.
Ma'am, we have different types of Khadi sarees, ma'am. So among those sarees, so which one is the best one with respect to the quality and comfort, ma'am?
A very tough question for a person like me, because when you talk about Khadi, I find every piece of Khadi very beautiful. Yes, again, it depends upon the requirement of the client. You know, there are few who would want fine count Khadi sarees and the few who would want corset. Let me also share with you. I have I've worked with few very prestigious clients of the country. I have done a lot of design development for Mrs. Manmohan Singh, Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, and also Mrs. Kumud Joshi, and also Mrs. Montek Singh Ahluwalia when she was living. She's no more with us. And you would believe me, if you can, that all four, they may look visible in terms of the sarees that they would clad in front of you on the screens, but they were always fond of very, very different counts with which you would work. Mrs. Kumud would want a saree which would be loosely woven, because she would want a beautiful drape and the material which would not be starched. On the contrary, Mrs. Montek Singh would want a khadi which is very lustrous in nature. Mrs. Sonia Gandhi would want the temple borders moving up and down and the insertion happenings. And however, Mrs. Manmohan Singh would always prefer for an ikat variation. So depending upon, the type of the country heritage that we're talking about, ikat uses a different count of the yarn. Pochampally uses a different count of the yarn. That's again a single ikat that I'm talking about. And when it has to be a loosely woven fabric, the count has to vary. So I cannot say which is good or which is bad. But if you would want to see a beautiful dictionary of sarees, please log on to Isha Foundation. Isha Foundation is one foundation in the country who is working a lot on the revival of different khadi materials in the country. So you'll be able to see. So there is nothing which is good or bad. It entirely depends upon what the customer wants and where does the customer want to use it.
Ma'am, price-wise, ma'am, could you tell me which one the best one?
Finer the count, more expensive it is. In Khadi, even once you will go to the stores, and if you can ever come to Sector 17 store, you would find Khadi price starting from 150 rupees a meter to 1500 rupees a meter also. And I'm only talking about the cotton Khadi. When it is actually about the original silk khadi, it's even more expensive. But the cotton khadi, which looks just like fine dhaka malmal, it is almost like 1500 rupees. You would find the best of khadis to the count of more than 200, believe me. It is just like, such fine material. You do not even feel the fabric on your hand when you pick up a material like this. And such type of account is only possible in the hand woven and hand spun. And you people will agree that with the machine, it gets tougher because the threads start breaking. So we are still able to get that. But finer the count, even the weaving gets very delicate and the material gets very, very expensive.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
All right. Any more questions?
So anybody else? Yeah, ma'am, I just have a small query here.
Yes.
Since you were talking about the production rates that you get from hand-woven khadis, it's low because it's hand-woven. So has anybody tried mechanizing the charkha or the way it is hand-woven?
Yes, Doctor. There are a lot of experiments which are happening. There is one which is called as new model charkha, and the fabric is also called as NMC. Today, the different type of men's kurtas that you would get in the market, especially the the shaded effect, the different warp and the different weft, are a result of that spinning of the yarn on the new model charkha. So there are a lot of developments which are happening. We are able to get comparatively finer surface with these new developments happening, but the only problem is, considering that it is not a power loom, I can at one point of time not get a bolt measuring more than 11 or 12 meters. Sometimes it becomes 11 1/4 of a meter, or it will become 11.5 meters. So when it comes to mass production, it is not possible. The mass production of the ready-made clothing in khadi gets very tough until and unless we're only doing white kurta pajamas. That's the only thing which is possible. Otherwise, trying to match up with the colors gets very tough. That is why small khadi vendors resort to direct dyeing, and that ultimately leads to a lot of bleeding of the colors happening, which is not acceptable in today's market. So that's how, ma'am, that's the problem that we people face. But there's a lot of development in the charkhas which are coming in. After there's a new charkha which has come in, that once the person can use the feet to move the pedal, and the thread is being spun, and at the same time even he can play a radio with that power which is being generated. So experiments are happening.
What length do we target for khadi? Optimized length?
Ma'am, if you talk about optimized length, it entirely depends upon the garment. But let me see, say, suppose if I want to make different type of men's kurtas, on an average, large size men's kurta would take around 3 meters of the fabric. And if I get a yardage, it is approximately 11 meters. I will not be able to take out more than 3 pieces. And the remaining of my material goes waste. I will not be able to take out straight panels because sleeves are generally taken out from the sides of the material. So I have to work on the multiples. If I want the yardage for the men's kurtas, it has to be in the multiples of the 3. And on the contrary, if I am aiming at the pajamas, it has to be in the multiple of 1.25. So that's how. And this is a possibility in the power loom, but this is not a possibility in the handloom. This is a big problem that we face. But we can have a standardized length, say 21 meters is a good length, wherein uppers and lowers can be developed. But it's very tough to achieve.
Have been able to achieve is 11 meters. That's what you say.
Most of the time between 11, 12.5, 13, not more than that. And that also we are able to get in Bengal. It's very tough to get such type of length in Punjab. Punjab, hardly you have one center. It's in Kharad, which are still weaving, and in Amritsar, in Patti, you would find only dari weaving happening, which is a khadi product. Otherwise, all over the Punjab, there is hardly any corporation which is still functional. There used to be one in Jalandhar also initially, but that's also closed down because they cannot match up with the market standards.
Right. Thank you so much, ma'am. Your insights have given us a lot of background to khadi and what we can do in the future. If there are no more questions, so we can end the session. Smriti, can you check, please?
Yes, ma'am. There are no questions in the chat box.
So we can end with this session. You can just continue.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am, for your presentation.
The next session we would be starting at 11:30, and Professor Vinamida would be delivering his lecture at 11:30. So I would request all of you to join back at the 11:30. Definitely, right? So there were a lot of queries on the WhatsApp group regarding feedback and attendance. So we'll be sharing you all the information today in the WhatsApp group itself. The attendance is automatically generated, as has been mentioned earlier by Smriti in the group, and the feedback will also be taken at the end. So the rest of the modalities regarding the test that has to be conducted, that will be shared on the group itself. That's what we wanted to convey to you. And please join back at 11:30 sharp, because in the morning session I saw that very few people had joined by 9:30. We are going to stick to the timings and give you the best that we can in these 5 days. Yeah? So we have Dr. Poonam still with us, ma'am?
No, ma'am. He just left.
Yes, left. Okay. So thank you very much, and we'll meet at 11:30.